Good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
We got a probate lead in today that we found out just now has a tax deed sale. We're in North Florida, by the way.
Congrats.
In 2 days.
2 days. Wow.
So we're
days.
kind of kicking ourselves that we didn't get to them earlier, but they just filed probate today. So we pulled the list today and we called them today, and in 2 days there's a tax deed sale. What do
Okay.
you suggest?
How much is the
$5,000 for the taxes.
so tell me about the deal.
It's in an area that moves. We have a buyer that would probably move on it pretty quick. It's in the worst part of town, but the property's moved. So we could get it under contract for like 30. The ARV is 105. We could probably sell it for 40.
So your only move to stop the sale is someone has to run over there and pay the tax. Like I can tell you, don't even call a lawyer. Don't even waste your time. There's nothing you can do other than satisfy the lien.
Mhm.
The problem with the question is, I get it. You don't want to do it. And then what I would try to do is recruit my cash buyer to come in and do it. But like, what's the profit potential of the deal, though?
10 grand, 10 to 15.
It's a little tight for something like that, and that's going to be the challenge with it. So, how long have you been working on the lead for?
We just got it this morning.
So the only thing you do is reach out to the taxing authority and just see, what would get that thing off the list. They're probably going to tell you need to pay it, and they don't mess around with tax details in Florida. I'm just telling you, like you have a better shot. If it was a regular foreclosure, you would actually even have a shot. But with these, they're a little bit challenging. So number one, at least call and ask. Today's over, so just start tomorrow. See if there's any options, and then use your brain to think outside the box to see if you can get your buyer to fund the deal. The problem is the speed at everything has to happen. Like so the only way, if I was a cash buyer, you brought me this deal, number one, I have to know there's a big profit potential, and number two, how am I protected if this goes to hell in a handbasket? So you could record a lien against the property, which I'm sure your seller would cooperate because they're not going to get any. So is the seller getting any equity out of this?
They would get like 10 grand as well.
Yeah, well, that 10 grand needs to be cut down to 5 because you're going to have to entice your cash buyer to take on this deal. But let me ask you, would your seller rather get 5 grand or 0?
They want to get anything that they can. They're really flexible.
No, you have to go cash buyer, go listen. Like, I think it's around a $10,000 deal, but I can squeeze a little bit more if you think you can fund this. Now, the good news is you go work with a title company and you could record a lien against the property. So worst case, here's how I always look at it. If I gave Andrew 5 grand to try to solidify this deal, how are you going to protect my interest? And so investors always look at capital preservation first. And you go, listen, we're going to record a lien. So you need to find out if you can put them in a first lien position. Is the property free and clear?
They owe 15 grand.
What's the value of the property roughly?
At the moment, it's super distressed, but if it was all fixed up, it'd be 105,000.
So listen, if I can take 5 grand and you can multiply it by 3, I would do this all day long. I would tell you, you need to get a lawyer or a title company to record a lien, protect it in the highest position against the property, and then kind of work it from there. That you're going to have to work it through your cash buyer, because unless you want to fund it. Now, if you can find someone to fund it, but the question is, I don't even know if you can do it. So number one, you got to find out if you can get it out of that sale. And then number two, figure out how you're going to fund it. And number three, how are you going to protect the person that funds it? That's it. You just got to look at the orders on that, because I'm going to say, what's my profit potential? So if I gave you 5 grand with this kind of deal, I'd probably expect close to 15 back for it. Think about it. Like, you could multiply my money by 3 and I ain't got to do a whole lot. I'm all in with you, man. And then maybe you even sell it for me and we can split the profits or do something like that. But it's the problem is sometimes people don't know the numbers on the deal, and so you got to look at the risk. So the 2 days is your biggest problem. So tomorrow morning, call, see what your options are, and start seeing it. After that, if you do it, you just have to decide who's going to fund that 5 grand. Because if you get the 5 grand funded, either you let that cash buyer move forward and that's his deal. And so maybe you wrap the 5 grand into part of like his deal, like put it under contract, go, listen, I have it under contract. So you got 24 hours. That's it. And then he has to fund and close the whole thing, because you can use his 5 grand as a non-refundable deposit. And if that 5 grand clears that lien, now he's got plenty of time to do whatever he needs to do with that entire property. Because once you fund that 5 grand, is anything else being foreclosed on it?
No, but it's probate. So then it's in test state. So it's going to have to sit and go through. They just filed probate today. So that's why it's a mess.
So why did they open a probate this late in the game?
I think they're just not very smart.
Okay, so that's a lawyer taking advantage of them. I would never advise someone to open a probate when you're getting ready to lose the house to a tax deed sale. So number one, attack the tax deed sale. And number two, the probate's a little discerning, because most people in positions like this, they get taken major advantage of by the attorney. So I'm going to tell you, so now you got to look into the probate and how is that that being funded? Who's paying for that?
Okay.
So
I don't know. But
yeah, because the average probate's about $3,000 now, even the minimal one. So like, who's going to pay for that? And a lot of lawyers will cut it in where they get control of the property. But a really bad lawyer takes on something like this because it doesn't look like he's going to get paid, in my opinion, unless they just funded him directly. So I would find that out too. And by the way, there are limits in the court system what a legal person can charge for these services, but they don't honor it. I recently went through and someone was taking a regular probate and they were charging them $13,000, which should have cost $2,500. So I gotta think you're probably gonna have a dirty lawyer in this. So you got one day to figure it out. That's it. And if you can't figure it out, just move on and go to the next one.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
It's no big deal. But remember, guys, when someone gets close to the sale date, they panic, and then they want you to fix all their problems, sometimes 2 to 5 years, in like a day or two. Sometimes, even though you think like you can fix anything, there's some stuff you just can't fix. And keep it in mind when you do it. So just understand it. And like, I want to help everyone. That's like part of my, like, I just want to help. But like I've learned, I've wasted a lot of time and money trying to help people, because in the end, if they don't want to be helped, there's all the lawyers and the fees. So like this one with that added probate thing, I'm probably going to shoot it like from a distance. Without the probate thing, I would fund the $5,000 all day with you and go, hey, here's the deal. I want 15 back. You figure out how to make it work. And hopefully you can make money with it. If you can't do that, because to me, just doubling my money on that deal is still risk. Triple. If I did 3 of those, 2 out of the 3 would hit me out of the ballpark. And that's how I look at it. By the way, I've done deals like this and I've lost plenty of time. But if you win more than you lose, then it's fine with it. You need to come up with a creative strategy. I think the probate's going to be a little bit of a challenge. And you said it's in, so there's no will too, right?
Nope.
Yeah. So that's, and how many family members are coming out of the woodwork?
There's 2 at the moment, and both are on board. We've talked to both.
Okay. Well, if you can get them to cooperate with that, you just got to figure out how to stop that sale and fund it. If you can answer those 2 and everybody agrees on the probate, you got a hell of a chance. So I would try to partner. Here's what I would do. What's your experience level in wholesaling?
Less than a year.
You might want to just partner up someone. Go, listen, we'll go on partner. You fund the $5,000 and we'll just split the profit. I'll do all the heavy lifting and I'll keep you, update you once a week, whatever you want to do. The problem is I would do it I just don't have time to look through all the documents and stuff like that. I love doing crap like this, man. To me, it's like, it's fun. So if I do these, I look for a 75 to 80% probability of success. Once it even sniffs 50, I'm out. I can go to Vegas and get better odds. So you're going to have to explain that to the investor, like what's in it for me and what's my worst case scenario. So if you can stop the sale, I got to assume you can get them as $5,000 back. That's how I look at it. So I've given you plenty of ideas. Like just like first thing, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, have a game plan and go on with it. And the funny thing, guys, is a lot of you assume, oh, I can't do that. Like, honestly, if you don't try, I guarantee you're going to fail. I once had a private mortgage on a property. This was through a probate, popped up in title for, it was like $69,000. I'm like, and my title company's like, well, you just got to pay it off. I looked at it, it was typeset written. I knew the mortgage was like 40 years old. And I started asking around. I go, you know what? I'm pretty good at this stuff. I've never seen a hand type mortgage. And I started doing research and found out that the company that wrote it got in trouble for fraud 20 years ago. And the company's been completely disbanded. So then it got back to, there was a court hearing and a judge disbanded the company. He goes, but like this one judge was associated with it. So they had like a board of directors. So my title company, my lawyer goes, if you can go to this former judge's door and he says he wants nothing to do with it, I'll wipe the whole thing out for you. So I went to his door. I knocked on the door. I literally thought I was going to crap in my pants. And by the way, this is only like 7 years ago. He says, I want nothing to do with that. Like that was a bad time in my life. I'm like, okay, no one. So we applied for quite a title. It took about 120 days. They wiped out $69,000. Now I was making 30 and I was this close to just paying it. I'm like, yeah, 30. I go, I've never seen a typeset. And I kept asking and asking and I did it. So at least ask and they might tell you. I'm pretty sure that the owner has up to the last day of the sale to pay their tax. Because remember, what happens at a tax deed sale is the people want to cover their tax, whoever put out the money plus their interest. Do you know what happens after that? It's a regular foreclosure auction then it gets bid up for what people will pay in the open market for it. So a lot of people think, well, if I just buy a tax certificate, I'll have control. You don't. You're just a lien holder. So the tax person is probably sitting there like, well, if someone doesn't buy it, maybe I'll do it. But remember, it's open to the entire world because your county probably has online auction. So find a way. If you can find a way to fund that $5,000 and answer those questions, you got a good shot. You just have to decide how much work and how much risk you want to put into it. The difference is it's not your risk, but you do have to fight for your cash buyer. You might use someone you know, you might use a friend or a family, or to try to get a cash buyer you don't have any relationship with. This would be a nightmare. It's hard. Like I would never trust you if I didn't know you. So this is the value when you guys build relationships with cash buyers. Like you can deals like this. How would you like to do 5 or 10 deals like this a year and just split them with it? Like it's a win-win. But remember, if you do 10 deals, 1 or 2 of them is not going to work out. And you have to know that going into this. So you can't just do 1 and cross 3. If you do 3 deals like this, 2 out of the 3 should always work out. And then when you lose one, shut your mouth because you made a ton of money on the other 2. I do this all the time, guys. I recently lost $3,000 on a deal, like whatever. But I can tell you how many other times it's worked out so much. I had one deal recently where the guy wrote me a note, did a creative financing deal, and a guy stroked me a check for $20,000 up front. I've never had to do a damn property, and I make $800 a month. Why? Because I asked. And I was nervous about asking just because I'm like, this is a really awkward question to ask. Can you just like give me the house? I'll give you a creative note. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And then I had somebody else give me the money to fix it up. And then I put a renter in there and it's done ever since then. So ask. So when you don't ask, guys, you go, well, I know they're going to turn me down. You never know. Just get up there and ask. I should have an entire live about how when people ghost you, dude, I go like military grade tax to find people. Like you have no idea the stuff I've come up with. I don't do it anymore, but I do my staff to do it. They're like, are you nuts? I'm like, oh, I do it all the time. You guys know I've randomly showed up at court appointments, like because people can't dodge their court hearings, especially in probate. I go, hey, John, man, I haven't seen you in like 4 months. It's like, man, I've been willing. He goes, I was going to wait till after this hearing to reach out to you. I go, well, we're here. We inked it right there in the courthouse. And I remember the lawyer goes, man, that is one bold mood. I go, dude, I had nothing going on. $70,000 profit. Like for the 5 and 10 grand, I'm going to be a little bit more conservative about it. But ask, guys. So whenever you're going, well, I'm not comfortable asking. Wholesaling is you're doing what 95% of the population is scared to death to do. So ask. If you don't ask, I guarantee the answer is no. And then if they give you a no, at least you'll learn from it and go forward from it. So you got 24 hours, figure it out. Let me know how it works out.